Hello, Internet. It is I, the Malik Aaron, and welcome back to Box Office Recap. So, August 2024, how was it? It was really mediocre. Like, it wasn't the worst month in the world, but it wasn't the best month either. It had its success stories, but it had its failures. Quite a few failures, actually. So yeah, it was just kind of a typical August where it very much felt like the last month of the summer season. So that's not exactly a great thing, but August has always been like that. So yeah, let's. But before we go over any of the August movies, I might as well give a shout out to Deadpool and Wolverine, which literally took over the month of August, despite opening in late July. As you can see here, it's number one. The only time it lost was on the 16th. That's when Alien Romulus came out. But after that, it was number one. 4 of the 5 weekends in August, it was number one, which is very impressive, to say the least. And now it is by far and away the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time in the States and worldwide, beating Joker. Hell of an accomplishment. And there's nothing else to really say about Deadpool Wolverine. The numbers speak for themselves. It's absolutely remarkable. So, yeah. And, nothing else to say about Deadpool and Wolverine. But on to the August releases. I'm going to be comparing my own personal predictions to what actually happened because I find that interesting. So, let's get started with August 2nd. It was a weekend to skip. It really was. So we should be able to get through this relatively quickly. First, you have the Firing Squad, which I expected it to make like no money because why would it make money? I mean, with a with a poster like this, how do you expect it to make any money? Especially with the font choice they used for the names. But I predicted an opening weekend. I think it was like 500K, final total of like a million. It hit over 800K, almost 900K, which I guess is, I mean, compared to like rock bottom expectations, that's good, but didn't save it in the end. It fell off a cliff like soon afterwards. A lot of these like movies that have like really low theater counts, they tend to do that, where they're basically there for 1 week and then they just fade from existence the next. And that's what happened here. And then making like 1.7 million, which I mean, I guess it could have been worse, but again, these are rock bottom numbers we're talking about. So, yeah, nothing else to really say. It's a movie that came out and is now forgotten. Harold and the Purple Crayon. Oh boy. This movie right here, this was a movie no one wanted, but for the few people out there who wanted a Harold and the Purple Crayon movie, this was not what they had in mind. Not at all. A lot of people, when Zachary Levi was announced for this movie, I assumed he was going to be Harold's dad. That's what I thought. But I was like, no, it's Harold all grown up. It's just, and I'm like, really? We're doing the whole kid, well, the adult who acts like a kid. Like, you already did this with Shazam. Like, it's getting old, Zachary. Like, come on, dude. So yeah, this movie had no hype, no buzz, and opening weekend I predicted like 6 million. I think 6-7 million. Final total of like 20 to 30 million. It wasn't even lucky to reach 20 million because only opened with 6 million, and its legs were not great, as it only made like a little over 17.5 million. So yeah, its legs, obviously it wasn't going to last long because there was, again, no demand for this thing. There was no hype, no buzz, no nothing. Yeah, this doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, again, who wanted this? Who wanted, like, who, like, first of all, Harold and the Purple Crayon, that's like an old property. And like this movie tried to like modernize it and stuff. And it's, first of all, like, for a movie in 2024, it didn't feel like, it felt like a movie that was written in like 2004. That like the script was just there. Someone found it, blew the dust off of it, and just made some tweaks here and there, and just say, "Boom, let's make a movie." That's what this feels like. This feels like a throwback in a bad way. So yeah, Harold and the Purple Crayon's failure. I'm not surprised at all. Not gonna talk about Kneecap because I didn't make a video on it. Trap though, let's talk about this one. M. Night Shyamalan's latest flick. I actually watched this in theaters, and I made the bold choice to not look at any reviews going into it. I wanted to go in blind as a bat, and that's exactly what I did. And quality-wise, I thought the movie was okay-ish. It wasn't like a terrible movie. It was a little underwhelming, though. I kind of expected some crazy plot twist to happen since like the marketing already told you like, oh, Josh Hartnett's character, he's the killer. Marketing already told you that, but the question is, how is he gonna get out, right? I thought there'd be like some wild twist in there, like say like the concert for like this, the pop singer that's playing. I thought she was involved, like she and like the killer would be like in cahoots with each other, something wild like that. But that didn't happen. But the movie wasn't bad. I wouldn't call it bad. I like the setting though, having it take place in a concert. Having like thrillers, like horror movies, like in concerts. I think it's kind of a cool thing that no one really does. I know Smile 2 revolves around like a pop star dealing with like a horror centric event. So yeah, I'm all for more, horror slash thriller centric, movies taking place like within something like a concert. It's interesting. But anywho, Trap. My prediction for this movie was like 16 to 18 million. Final total was like 40 million. It hit 15.4. It hit 41.6. So it pretty much matched my expectations. My expectations weren't super high for this. I mean, like M. Night Shyamalan's movies are kind of he hasn't been doing like so hot. I mean, he hasn't like made anything like disastrous, but I feel like the only people really watching these movies are diehard fans, me being one of them. Although I didn't see The Watchers, I didn't give a shit about that movie. That was like from his daughter. So yeah, but Trap, I mean, its performance only cost like 30 mil. It's not listed on here. It's like $30 million. It's self-financed by the man himself. But like 79 million worldwide. I mean, that's not a terrible total. That's not his worst performing movie. His worst performing movie was Knock at the Cabin last year. So this did better than that, but it's still not a great result. But hey, it could have been worse. I mean, compared to some of the other August movies that came out, it looks golden. So, yeah, Trap was like the best performer out of the August 2nd bunch, but it's not a high achievement. Not at all. So that was August 2nd. August 9th, things get a lot more interesting. Borderlands. Oh boy. A lot's been said about this movie. I didn't see this movie. I told myself, no, I'm not going to go to the theater and watch this. I'm not going to sit there and be miserable. I'm not going to do that to myself. I'm just going to let it die and watch its death from the sidelines. And that's exactly what I did. Because this movie was doomed for a very long time. I mean, like, the first sense of doom really should have came when Eli Roth, the man who made the movie. Apparently, I have to look it up just to be sure, but the inspiration for this movie came when his dog took a shit. I'm not making that up. You think I'm just playing? You think I'm just saying that just as a weird joke? No. If you go on the Wikipedia page, it shows there's a whole paragraph. I'm going to read it for you. Eli Roth stated that his French bulldog pooping gave him inspiration while pitching the film. I have to look away because she gets really shy, but one day I filmed her. She had that shy look on her face, and I was like, that's Claptrap. A scene of Claptrap pooping was included in the final film. This is a real thing in the Wikipedia page on the Wikipedia page for this movie. So this actually happened. Like that alone should tell you that this movie was fucked from the very beginning. And then the movie was filmed like in 2021, and then it just sat on the shelf for like a year or so. I think like 2 years. Yeah, 2 years. And eventually it did get a release date of August 2024. Then the trailer came out, and then people were just like, ugh. Like, people weren't really enthused. People thought the movie was like hella miscast with certain characters, like with Kevin Hart and Kate Blanchett's characters specifically. And then the closer we got to release, everyone was like, yep, this movie's gonna bomb, it's gonna fail, it's gonna die out there. And lo and behold, that's what happened. In spectacular fashion, I should add. So, opening weekend, I predicted between like 8 to 10 million, I think. 8 to 10 million. And a final total of like, I think it was like 20 or less, 15, 20 or less, I don't know. Well, it hit 8.6 million. And keep on, this movie cost over $100 million. 100 mil for this thing. 110 to 120 mil to be exact. So to make $8 million on that budget, that is just nothing you can say. There's nothing you can say to really just, I can't even put into words just how disastrous that really is. And then it only got worse. I mean, first of all, its opening weekend was hella front loaded, like 30%. This is just the weekend. And then it just kept dying, just falling. And look at these numbers, 72%, 80%, 85%. By the end of August, it was a memory. Literally. And it only made like basically 15.5 million. Absolute disaster. Nothing good at all I can say about his performance. Easily one of the biggest bombs of 2024. Did it deserve it? Yeah. Word of mouth for this was some of the worst I've seen in a long time. From like, critic-wise and audience-wise. Like, it's not too often you see a movie get a D+ cinema score. That is not a thing that just occurs regularly. So, yeah. So, yeah, movie bombed, and easily the biggest fail of August. And that wasn't even the only failure from Lionsgate. There's another one that I'm pretty sure you all know about. I'll get to that later. But yeah, Borderlands, disaster. Cuckoo. Yeah, Cuckoo. I hope I'm saying that right. Cuckoo is from Neon. I predicted an opening weekend of like 4 million, final total of like less than 10. It hit 3 million, and well, it just died a death, just like Borderlands. Difference is this movie was nowhere near as expensive as that, so it doesn't look as bad, but only made like 6 million. As you can see, it just fell off completely by the end of August. Yeah, not much to say about this one. I wasn't expecting this to be like a long legs level hit. I think expecting that is just foolish. So, yeah. It's just kind of a movie that's just a little movie that came out and made like a couple $1 million and then disappeared. Now, the next movie, it ends with us. This right here was the movie of August. And I completely underestimated it like weeks in advance. It wasn't really on my radar. I kind of thought, I was like, will it... Well, first of all, I had no clue how big the book was, especially on TikTok or Book Talk. Had no clue about its popularity until, like, well, after the fact, when I looked into it. And just seeing, like, all this hype and buzz and attention. And I saw its preview numbers of, like, I think it was 7 million, right? Yeah, 7 million. I was like, okay, damn. this movie's like it's gonna pop off. So my prediction was 45 to 50 million opening weekend. Its total was like 100 million plus. Well, it did just that. It opened to $50 million exactly. Yeah, 50 million. It was number two. It did win. It was number one opening day, but obviously this movie was doomed to be front loaded at least opening weekend because of the fan base, the fangirl effect, if you will. But yeah, up with 50 million, right under Blake Lively's husband's movie, Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool and Wolverine. So you have husband and wife dominating the box office, and its legs after that have been pretty solid. It's made over 142 million domestically. I believe one of the best of the entire year. It's made over 300 million worldwide on a budget of like 25 million, which is fantastic. And yeah, this movie had a lot of drama going on, a lot of tabloid stuff you definitely heard about, you know, with, the feud between like the director slash star of the movie, Justin Baldoni, and the rest of the cast and crew, especially Blake Lively, and then Blake Lively got some shit for how she was promoting the movie and everything because the movie is about domestic abuse and the movie kind of sugar coats it in a way because obviously domestic abuse is a subject that's not very pleasant. Obviously it's not exactly something easy to market, so it's just a lot of stuff going on, but Sony, they don't care. This made them like $300 million. You think they give a damn? So yeah, this movie was the big hit of August. I didn't think it would be the big hit of August at all. I thought it was going to be Alien Romulus. But keep in mind, this was when I didn't realize how big It Ends With Us, actually was, how big the book actually was. But yeah, the movie was a big old hit, and not much else to say. Oh, I forgot to mention this about Borderlands. Might as well mention it now. Borderlands movie, later in August, it was like 2 weeks after. So basically, like, yeah, around 2 weeks after, so before like August 23rd, I think, they announced a Borderlands 4, the game. They announced it. And I thought that was really interesting. Now, obviously, it was already planned to be announced at that point. But to me, it just kind of felt like like damage control. Like people are just like, okay, we have to make people stop thinking about the Borderlands movie because it was such a flop. What do we do? Announce a new game? Perfect. And now people will forget about the movie and just think about the game. So thought that was interesting. And actually, before we get to the August 16th movies, I think it's only fair I talk about the movie I didn't make a prediction video on, but had a huge impact throughout the month of August. That movie being Coraline, specifically the re-release, the remastered 3D re-release of Coraline. So I had no expectations for this because a lot of these re-releases, they only make like a couple $1 million and that's it. Like they don't really go anywhere. But this one was different. And it wasn't even like it was for like Fathom Events, which can have like a hit movie, but like Fathom Events movies are just so weird and how they're structured and like organized, which is why I didn't make a prediction video on it. And like the original Coraline, its original run, it did solid. It didn't do incredible, but it did all right. It made like 75 mil, which is like on the high end for like a stop motion movie. But with this re-release, like boy, did it pop! I have to like scroll and scroll and scroll. Just I have to ignore like the special releases like in 2021, 2022, 2023. Okay, 2024. So it opened on a Thursday, and as you can see here, opened like 2.9 million on Thursday, and then it just kept going afterwards to the point where it made about, let me see, 30 mil. Yeah, it made 30 mil. So because of that, Coraline's final total was lifetime total went from like 85 mil to like 115 mil, which is now officially the biggest stop motion movie I think ever. I think the only one that maybe Chicken Run. I think is the only one that's done better. No, Coraline is the new number one now. Okay. So that's great. That's awesome because Coraline is a fantastic movie. It's a childhood favorite of mine. Really, really enjoyed it. I'm glad it's getting some love now because by God, it deserves it. And I imagine, and what's interesting is that this movie, the original release, was like a modest hit, yet the re-release did so much better than like other re-releases. Re-releases of movies that were like big blockbusters from back in the day, like say Shrek 2 or The Mummy or Lion King. Well, the re-release that came out this year for The Lion King, not the 2011 one where that was like 3D and all that. But yeah, the fact that Coraline did better than a lot of re-releases nowadays is, pretty cool. Shows that there will always be appeal for a movie like Coraline, and I think it's awesome. So hell yeah, I'm glad Coraline, the Coraline re-release did as well as it did. I didn't see it. I kind of regret not going to see it because it's Coraline, but I was busy and it just didn't work out. But yeah, I regret not seeing it again. But that's enough about Coraline. Now we move on to the August 16th releases. We got Alien Romulus, the last hoorah of summer right here, the last hit of summer. My prediction for this movie, I predicted between 40 to 50 million, final total like 100 to 120. It hit 42 million, so I'm like, okay, all right. Its second weekend was a little rough. The legs have been kind of mediocre, but I kind of expected that considering this is an alien movie. And at this rate, at this moment in time, it's hit close to 98.8. So it should reach 100 million this weekend. Yeah? Yeah, it should. So we'll hit triple digits. And yeah, I did see this one, and I thought it was pretty good. It was a solid flick. It kind of went away with what like Prometheus and Alien Covenant did. Like, I guess the big issue with those movies for a lot of people is that they got like a little too philosophical, and it was kind of a turn off. People just kind of wanted just a straight horror movie with people fighting xenomorphs and shit. And this movie definitely had that. So yeah, went back to basics, and it was just a solid flick. And it helps that you're not like required to watch the other movies to like understand. This is very much like a standalone movie, just like how like Twisters is a standalone sequel. This is the same thing. So yeah. So in Alien Romulus, it's made over 300 million worldwide. This movie was popping off in China, which you don't see too often these days. It's not like say 5 years ago, when like when a movie like a Hollywood movie doing better in China than the U.S. was like common. These days, it's very rare. So yeah, that 100 million it made in China obviously helped this movie out tremendously because it ended up doing way better than Alien Covenant. So and then that shows that there is still life in this series. You can keep going. And I know there's an Alien show coming next year, Alien Earth. But when it comes to more Alien movies, I mean, you could try Alien versus Predator again, do it right, you know, because I mean it's been a long time since we've seen an Alien versus Predator movie, and they talked about that, and I say go for it, go for it, do it right, and just don't mess up, don't mess it up like you did like the first two times. And it's crazy to think this was supposed to be on Hulu. Yeah, you may not know that this movie was destined to be on Hulu, just like Prey. But I guess Disney looked at it and was like, you know what? we might have something with this. So they end up giving it the it was promoted to theatrical release, and obviously that worked out real well for them. So yeah, Alien Romulus, the last big movie, last real hit of the summer. So yeah. And speaking of like Disney, man, summer 2024, they were just killing it the whole time. I mean, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes did all right, but it did way better than everything else in May. And then obviously Inside Out 2 and Deadpool Wolverine. I don't need to explain those. Those two movies made well over $1 billion. And then Alien Romulus ended the summer on a pretty strong note. So yeah, Disney just it was a complete 180 from last year. Last year was rough for the House of Mouse. This year, though, they dominated over everybody. So it's kind of like 2019 all over again. So, yeah, I imagine that made them feel good after such a shitty 2023. But let's move on. Look at what else we have. My Penguin Friend. I mean, I predicted an opening weekend. I think it was like 500K to a million. Final total of like 2 million or something like that. It made over a million, and it made over 2.6 million. So that's not like horrible. His legs were bleh as I expected. So I guess did for its rock bottom expectations. I guess it did okay, but it doesn't matter. Ryan's World the movie, okay. It's crazy. I made a prediction video for this thing, but I had to because it was technically a wide release. I predicted an opening weekend of like less than 500K, and I don't think I made a final total. I think I forgot to do that. If I did, it'll probably be like less than a million, and well, that's what happened. So it opened with like 419K, so couldn't even reach my 500K. And then God, it just evaporated so fast, so quick. And yeah, and just like what I said in my video about this movie, it's just like why is Ryan still doing this? This kid is gonna be 13 in like a little bit, and like he's too old to be doing this. Like if apparently he doesn't like go to like a regular school, because if he did, they would have bullied the shit out of him. They would have roasted him and everything, or just be like leeches, one to get like not really wanting to be with him, more because like he's famous online, which would have been so yeah, school if Ryan went to like a normal school, things would have been real shitty for him. Kind of like what Jake Lloyd had to deal with, after Phantom Menace. And yeah, it's just sad. Just I don't get what his parents are just like some evil monsters at this point. They're just making their kid just into a brand. Like they shouldn't. No child should make their kid into a brand. Like that feels very just icky to do such a things. So like, please stop it. Ryan's parents. I know you're not going to watch this video. I don't expect you to at all. But just stop it. Ryan's World. Just quit it. Let the kid live his life. Just stop forcing this onto him, please. Because if you keep doing this, like in a few years' time, I imagine Ryan is gonna like there's gonna be some incident revolving around Ryan that's not gonna be pleasant at all. Like some type of like I don't know, it's like a Miley Cyrus-esque incident going on, and I don't obviously that's not something something like no one wants to see. So I'm hoping Ryan's parents like get the message and just free their kid from like internet, making internet content like all the time when because I've seen like some videos about Ryan's World recently, not like Ryan's World videos, more specifically videos talking about it. And this poor kid, he is just done. He doesn't want to do this anymore. You can just see the light just disappear from his eyes. It's bad. So I'm hoping he can like get out of this. I'm hoping he can like stop making like internet content and just like live his life. That's all I hope for, because yeah, it's bad. Okay, what's next? Skincare. So I predicted an opening weekend. I think it was like 500K. Final total like a million, something like that. Hit 300K. Oh my god, that may be the worst second weekend I've ever seen in my life. 97%. God damn. Hit like 456K. Nothing really to say. Let's move on. So August 23rd. Ick. Okay. Blink twice. So I predicted an opening weekend for this. I think it was like 6 to 8 million. Final total of like 15, 20. It hit 7.3 million. I mean, its legs have been like all right ish. And it's hit 21.1 million. So it's reached my expectations. Yeah, I wasn't expecting anything big from this movie. It's a late August movie, so your expectations should automatically be low because of that. And yeah, it just kind of just came out, and that was it. Now the Crow though, the Crow. Oof. Oh, okay. Lionsgate's second big L of August. So my prediction for this movie, I predicted like 5 to 7 million. Final total of like, I don't know, 10 to 15. I don't remember the exact number. Like, I knew this movie was fucked for a long time. I mean, it was a reboot of the 1994 cult classic, with The Crow, the movie that is mainly known for the tragic death of Brandon Lee, who died on while filming via a prop gun going wrong. And honestly, like The Crow should have just stayed with like that movie, and that's it. But they made sequels that nobody liked, and then they decided, okay, let's do a whole new reboot. And this thing was in development hell for like what, 15 years, 15 so years. Bunch of people just coming in and out of the project, and then they finally found like their cast and crew, and then they filmed, and then the first trailer released. People didn't like it at all, so that was already a bad sign. And the closer the movie got to release, I was just like, yeah, no, this movie, this is not gonna end well, is it? And it sure didn't. Almost 4.6 million, and I was like, damn, that's worse than Borderlands, which is quite the achievement. Fell 61%. The 93%. Literally what I said in my prediction video. Like when Beetlejuice came out, this movie was going to disappear. And that's exactly what happened to a T. So, yeah. And just to really showcase how bad The Crow 2024 did. So like it's 9 million, 9.3 million it made. Shoot, I gotta like. I know what to do. Crow. Yeah, the scroll. I think this is the one. Yeah, The Crow, 1994, opened with 11.7 million. So the new Crow, its whole run was less than what the original Crow made in 3 days. And keep in mind, this was 30 years ago. So inflation wise, infinitely worse. So yeah, I mean, just look at even inflation, adjusting for inflation. Look at these numbers: 9 versus 133. Christ, like what? Their words can't do justice for how shitty this result is. Yeah, words really can't describe it. Like the numbers just speak for themselves. This is fucking horrendous. And it was a flop that everyone saw coming. And yeah. Yeah. I guess the only like positive is that this movie wasn't as expensive as Borderlands. It's cost about half as much, so it doesn't look, so its losses won't be as great. But it's still awful, straight awful. There's no positivity here. So yeah, big old L right there. And then we end with the. I'm not talking about Strange Darling because I didn't make a video on it, but The Forge. Let's talk about that real quick. The Forge. It did okay, I guess. I mean, my prediction was like 6 to 8 million, made like 6.6. It was man. This movie was like a cup like $1,000 away from reaching like 666 in its opening weekend. That would have been crazy, but no, that didn't happen. It would have been hilarious though. And its legs have been okay. It's not been all right. It's made about 22 million on a budget, but well, it's not listed here. I think it was like $5 million. So is easily the most successful movie to come out of the August 23rd weekend. Sure, this is nowhere near as good as say like War Room or Overcomer or Courageous, from the Kendrick brothers. But for a small little movie like this, could have been worse. So I would consider this to be like okay-ish, just fine, which is way better than what I could say about The Crow. So that was August 23rd, and now we end with August 30th, with the last weekend of the summer, and man, it was a weekend that was worth skipping because nothing happened. Holy shit. Well, something happened, Reagan, but for the most part, it was just absolutely awful. So let's go through this graveyard. First of all, 1992. I predicted an opening weekend. I think it was like $1 million or so for 3 and 4 day. Final total of like 2, 3. It hit 1.4 million for the 3 day, and 1.8 million for the 4 day. And so far it's made 2.7 million. I can't imagine that number is gonna go any higher. So it's probably gonna hit like stay around 3 million. I'm not surprised. This movie had a low theater count, low advertising. I only knew about this movie because of a trailer, and that was it. A trailer that played before a movie. I think it played before Alien Romulus. That was my first exposure to this movie. So yeah, I'm not surprised this movie just didn't really make much of an impact. Afraid. Oh, Joel. Afraid. So I thought this would be like the big, well, I was going to say hit, but that would have been completely inaccurate. I thought this would be like the big movie of the weekend. That's what I thought for a long time. And as we got closer to release, I was like, okay, maybe not. So I predicted, I think 3, 5 million. I don't remember at all for 3 or 4 days, but I think it was like 10 to 15 for its total. This movie opened with 3.6 million. I was like, damn, this did worse than The Crow? Shit. Like, we're really just... It's really a race to the bottom when it comes to August. Like, when it came to August movies. And... yeah, so... 3.6 million. Second weekend tanked completely. Fell 73%. And I looked at its theater count. It's going to lose damn near all its theaters this weekend. So it's definitely gonna stay at around 6 million, which is just embarrassing. I mean, this movie, it wasn't even expensive. From what I've read, it was like 12 million. Although I will check off screen just to be sure. Afraid. Let me see. Yeah, 12 million. How do you not do better than 12 million? Like, that's such a low bar, and somehow this movie couldn't reach said low bar. Like, that's actually impressive. And for like Blumhouse, this is just dire, dude. This is one of the worst performances ever. I don't remember a Blumhouse movie doing this bad since like what, Gem and the Holograms, technically, if it's even on here. Yeah, Gem and the Holograms. Yeah, more or less. I think. Well, I guess there was like Incarnate, but like who remembers that? But there's some other ones. but most of these are just like really like super duper low budget, like to the point where you're just like, wait, this released? You didn't even know it came out. But yeah, for Blumhouse standards, this is absolutely embarrassing. I mean, Speak No Evil is doing a lot better, but yeah, I think this like really shows like a problem with Blumhouse right now. I feel like this year has been rough. It's been just it is not popped off at all. Night Swim, Imaginary, people don't even remember these movies, and they came out earlier this year. Now, Wolfman, I saw a trailer for that. That has potential. I don't know if it'll be good, but it certainly looked interesting. So we'll see how that does. But yeah, Blumhouse, they've seen better days. Let's just say that, because like last year, they were doing quite all right. They had Megan, Five Nights at Freddy's, both of which did great. So yeah, just a like 180 in like the worst way for Blumhouse right now when it came, especially when it came to Afraid. What's next? City of Dreams. Okay, City of Dreams. This movie, I predicted an opening weekend of like 1 to 3 million. Final total of like less than 10. And then so far it opened with 1.2 million, fell 93% the next weekend, and it's gone. And it's weird. Like this movie really just wanted. It tried to emulate Sound and Freedom with the whole, I guess, child exploitation, child, human trafficking, and all of that. And there was like a bit of publicity going on, and I just knew, first of all, expecting this to like be as successful as Sound of Freedom is just ludicrous, because Sound of Freedom was very much lightning in a bottle. You can't replicate a success like that. You can't like expect it to happen. Like it just it happens whenever. Like you can't just force it into existence. And yeah, and the low theater count, like if Roadside Attractions or whoever like released this, if they like really believed in this movie, then they would have given it like a wider release, right? Wouldn't that make sense? That way more people could watch it, right? But like they gave it barely any release, and now it's literally been forgotten about. It's been like 2 weeks, and no one remembers this thing. So yeah, absolute flop right there. Then we got Reagan, which ended up being like the big movie of the weekend, the only movie to not completely embarrass itself. So Reagan, I predicted an open week of like 5 or so million, and yeah, about five or so, yeah, about five or so million. A final total of like 15 or so, and open of 7.6 million. I was like, okay, it's a little better than expected. It had a nice second weekend. It's now made over 20 million, so it's not awful. It cost 25 million. I don't really see it making that money back, but unless this movie has like god tier legs or something. But yeah, but for this movie, I mean, it's not these numbers aren't great at all, but it could be a lot worse. You could be Borderlands, you could be The Crow, you could be Afraid. Okay? And this movie like trumps over all of them. So I guess that's like a victory within itself. So yeah. And then the last two movies, there's a Slingshot. I predicted like I think like 500K or something, like a million or something, and the final total like I think it was like a million or two. It ended up making like 491K opening weekend. Fell 97%. Look at these second weekend declines, man. God damn. And now it's paid 735K. Literally nothing else to say. Let's just move on. And then You Gotta Believe, a movie that didn't even have like a theater count when I looked into it. I think I predicted like 1 million or so. A final total of like 3 million. Hit 677K. I didn't even see this number initially. I thought I was just not going to get numbers at all, and I was like, why did I even make the video then? And yeah, made 677K. That fell 77% the next weekend, and now it only made like 1.3 million, which I'm not super shocked it did this low. I mean, it had like no real publicity. I mean, it had like a bunch of YouTube ads that were just playing for like a few days, and they all just disappeared. So it's just one of those releases where I'm just like, why even put in the effort of having like YouTube ads if no one was gonna watch this movie anyway? Like, what's the point? That's just a waste of money. So, yeah. And that was August. Yeah, it wasn't great, but at least there was like a clear winner this year, like a certified smash hit in the two, big hits in the form. It ends with us in Alien Romulus and the Coraline re-release. Let's see, those last year. Your big movie was Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, which did solid in the States, but internationally not so much. Same in the Meg 2, the opposite applied, where it did like meh domestically, but really good overseas. So I'm glad I have like a month where there are the clear-cut winners. So, yeah. Now going into September, the way it's looking right now, Beetlejuice is going to dominate everything. And it's not even going to be like close. It's not going to be a competition at all. So Beetlejuice is doing great, doing fantastic. This weekend with these movies, I'm going to be eventually doing prediction videos for in about an hour or so. Yeah, none of them are really doing that great. Well, Speak No Evil's doing okay, but it's a real slow weekend. And then Never Let Go, I don't see that doing that great. Transformers 1, I don't know about that one. That could either be a hit or a flop. Who knows? Wild Robot has quite a bit of buzz surrounding it. That could surprise. Megalopolis, that's another Lionsgate L right there. A fat L at that. I can't wait to make a prediction video on that movie. But yeah, and just that weekend, 6 movies. God, that's going to be awful. I'm not looking forward to it. Not one bit. But that's how September, that's what September looks like. So, so that's it. That's all. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, turn on notifications, share the whole drill. Want to check out more videos like this? I got playlists on the homepage, all previous prediction videos I made this year, not the recap videos I made this year, the past few years. You want to watch any of them, go right ahead. I will be making my summer 2024 recap videos, my winners and losers videos in about 2 weeks time. Around 2 weeks time. So stay tuned for those videos as well. There's also box office predictions where I predict box office for movies. Every movie I talked about here, with the exception of like Coraline, I made a prediction video for. So if you want to watch any of those videos, go right ahead. You want to watch any of the past prediction videos I made this year, past few years, go right ahead. There's also the canceled series where I went over all the movies that were supposed to come out but didn't. If you want to watch all 250 episodes of that, go right ahead. And yeah, that's it. That's all. I am out. Goodbye.